Hello, and welcome to the Internal Energy Show. It presents conversations on consciousness with me, Minette, the Internal Energist. This is a show that kind of focuses on raising the planet's vibration and introducing you to amazing different entrepreneurs around town and around the world that are making changes and either assisting people in awakening or sharing their creative craft and skills with people to just bring more joy in their life. And one of those amazing people that is with me today that I consider a very dear friend is Angela Michelle. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, she does some amazing work. We've got to meet in some really neat ways. I'm so grateful for you in my life.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
She made me this beautiful bracelet that I'm just in love with. And she does this amazing jewelry. And one of the things that I really adore about you, it seems like when you get in your creative mode, you kind of check out of the world,
yes,
and you're into that person's energy to just bring forth what's required for them to be created for, I don't know whether it's a lesson or more ease or whatever it is at the time that can help facilitate more in their life.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that process.
Well, it started out just I was creating jewelry in a regular job because I just wanted a creative outlet, something new. And I was just making pieces that I thought were beautiful. And then other people were seeing them and they were saying how beautiful they were and, purchasing them. And then it started to dovetail into, well, I'm looking to have more of this in my life, or I have a lot of chaos, or whatever it was. So as I sat there to create the piece, most people knew me well enough that they were like, you use your intuition and pick for me. So as I sat there and kind of would go into someone's field, I would just get all of this information. And what is important to me to have in the pieces is not only stones that help ease and move energies through that are no longer serving the person, but also having stones that capitalize on the person's abilities, because as I'm in that energy in that space, I'm able to kind of contact their soul and see what the next step is, what wants to come through, maybe talents they aren't utilizing. A lot of times the people are very intuitive themselves, and that's wanting to come forward, and they're wanting just a little nudge that, see, I've got this. So I think of it as a gift you're giving to yourself, because I'm also giving a reading with it. But the stones to me represent what is innately within us. It's just a reminder that all that I'm seeking outside of myself is already within. And so I pass these pieces along with that blessing and knowledge that these are things that are already inside of you. When you look at it and you wear it, know that. Fake it until you make it. If you don't know that, start saying that as your mantra, and anything that doesn't allow me to know that what that represents is already within me, until that eases the energy out and you start to see it show up in your life.
And I love that so much. And those of you that know me know I adore crystals. I have a bunch here with her amazing jewelry on it, but I don't know, crystals just have these different frequency and vibrations where there are ones that can open someone's heart up or help facilitate healing, or help them learn to speak their truth, or all these different things, like maybe releasing trauma or being grounded. And so to be able to to tap into that person's energy or frequency and be able to bring forth a combination that can facilitate that, it's such a beautiful, I'm going to say tool, but it's such a beautiful piece of art that facilitates so much more than just being a beautiful piece of jewelry.
Yes, and I do feel as we're shifting and we're in this new era, this new space and time where we're learning not so much through the suffering of the past era, when I was starting to create the jewelry for others, what could I do to be more joy when I'm in service for others? And beauty's a part of that. Like doing something that's beautiful, bringing more beauty into the world so someone could say, oh, I am that, versus learning it, the suffering the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, that did seem like a big part of the old paradigm. It's like you have to learn all of these lessons and they need to be really hard and difficult. And it seems like even with the Earth's frequency shifting, that things are happening so much faster now, is that you don't necessarily have to choose to do it the hard way.
Right.
Like things could be done with so much more ease. And I know we've had classes together where we're even exploring that, with ease. With ease.
Yeah, with ease is our friend. Because, a lot of us, and what I was hearing when I was, tapping in, what am I going to speak about? Not only the jewelry, but what's best for the audience today. And they were definitely saying that, everyone here on Earth right now is a master. You've mastered many frequencies, many vibrations, and many planets. You are already ascended beings in some realms. And so some of you are choosing challenge just because you can.
Yeah.
And so that's fine too. So when something's challenging and you're resisting it, for me it helps to remember I'm doing this because it's fun. So sometimes the challenge is kind of fun, and that's okay too. So maybe we've been a little too hard on ourselves and dogmatic about, oh, this is not the easiest or this is the hardest, but, just look inside and see why you're choosing what you're choosing, and maybe it's because it's fun.
It's true, and it's
Sometimes.
okay to choose what's fun. Even if because not a lot of people seem to choose that. I think even the older generations really instilled 8 hours of hard work for you have to work really hard for what you achieve, and if you don't work hard, then it's not worth having. And if we start to undo those old paradigms and think, well, that's an interesting point of view, because this is the generation of creation,
Right.
and it can be done with ease. So I think when we get stuck sometimes, as we all do, is to remember, wow, interesting that I'm choosing this. And what else
Right.
could I be choosing, or what would it take to have greater ease with this challenge I'm, bringing
Yeah.
forth, and sometimes it's as simple as that. It's just acknowledging and asking.
Mm-hmm.
Creation can happen that fast. It's beautiful. And I love what you said too about everybody being ascended masters, because I do believe that everybody has gifts and capacities.
Yes.
It's just to what choice you're willing to acknowledge them, but that doesn't make them not exist. And I've been finding a lot of clients coming in now with different body, discomforts that no one can explain, or different body aches or pains, or different things going on, and there's technically no medical reason why. They've gone to the emergency rooms or the doctors, and then they're finding out a lot of times that it just has to do with these abilities or their natural gifts that they're not using, and their body's trying to say, hey, we're ready to use this energy now.
Absolutely. I had my own issues with that when I was creating, because one, I'm left-handed, so everything tends to go through that heart meridian anyway. And I was feeling extreme pain through my arm, and I couldn't quite ground myself, which grounding is always, that's the thing I have to focus on in my human experience a lot anyway. But I was feeling a lot of pain in my arm, and I'm like, what is going on? And I just stopped, and I said, what is this? And I realized I was mistaking creative energy for pain in the body because it was so intense. And I was in the process of making a piece for someone, and they're like, right. My guides were like, just write. So I just started automatic writing everything they said. As soon as it was out of me, fine. And that was a really big lesson that day, that I also write messages with some of the pieces, whatever comes through, that I need to honor that. So what is this pain in my body? Is this actually pain? Is this creative energy wanting to come through?
Yes.
Because, we're in a new part of space that we've never been in, and so these energies are different. And yesterday on my run, I asked about this. I said, what's one thing you would really want people to know about this time? And they said, get used to change. And I kind of see it as a person with one foot. You're straddling a line. One foot was on this old and one foot's on the new, and we're kind of in those ages, I guess, or those years where maybe we're straddling it. And so they're saying the more comfortable we can get with things changing, I mean, we can look back to the past and look back to the ways the indigenous did things and lived close to the land, but knowing that their space that they were pulling from was different than what we're in. So we take that knowledge, bring it forth, but we add to it from this new space. So trusting that, and also trusting, they were saying so much. They had so much to share with you guys.
I know, that's a good
That that you're always going to be a student of the new, and you're going to be a master of the past. So to stay humble in that newness, and that I'm a student of this and I'm learning as I go. And that was a really big one for me. I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. I can be, that just expanded me. Oh, I'm a student. I'm just learning. I don't, sometimes with the word master, it can feel kind of heavy for some. Like, oh, I feel like I should know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to know what this looks like. But the reality is we're somewhere totally new. So be a student of the new.
And even the
play.
masters are always up for learning and the new information.
Yeah.
They're looking, when they say master, it means they've achieved a level of knowing what they know, but also knowing they don't know everything. Like,
Yes.
I'm ready and open for, whatever the universe has to bring me. And change is such a phenomenal part of this, because change is different, new change. Everyone thinks that's uncomfortable, and there can be parts that are uncomfortable because your comfort zone is something you know, and change requires something new, something different, and that might not be comfortable. Like even when you were talking about the two people straddling, you have some people wanting to hold on to the old paradigm and systems, really wanting change, but not ready to take that full step into the new. So it can be kind of uncomfortable. So they're trying to do this dance between two worlds, what they would really like their reality to look like, and holding on to what they know, even though knowing that what they know isn't necessarily creating ease or joy in their life. So it's, you know,
it's almost
like, but at least I
keeping
know
stuck
here
and
what's,
stable.
you know, and the newness can be uncomfortable, but all growth is. I mean, even when your physical body goes through, you know, you go through the growing pains, but then you come out, you know, even more beautiful and stronger than you were before. So I think that's just like with anything when we talk about consciousness and awakening, is going through those uncomfortable periods, those growth periods, but always being open to learn and know and contribute in ways that, you know, you never even thought was possible. That's how we really start to create a reality we truly desire, and not, you know, try to hold on to the paradigm just complaining and wanting change, but not really, but not be willing to have it. Because sometimes when we ask for
Being
things, being it is profound. I mean, that's just completely different, new ways of thinking, ways of feeling, ways of sensing, ways of expressing, ways of creating. So, I mean, I love that you do that with people, and you tap into them with the jewelries and even the messages, you know. And this is just one little small part of what this amazing woman does, because she also does something that I find is very beautiful, and we might, and I think we're ready to talk about it now too, because like her, she does these things called soul charts, and and for those of you that someone that doesn't know what a soul chart is, let's tell them a little bit about what that is.
It's a soul chart. It's you could call it a soul contract reading, and it is based on the Hebrew numerology of Moses. So it is 22 letters and numbers. They coincide, like A is 1. They don't specifically go in order like that, but because there's some double letters that produce one number, but there's 22 frequencies. And you know, a lot of religions in the beginning was the word. This is a play on that our names, sound is frequency and frequency is form. And so your name, what you identify yourself as, brings you into a form, a way of being. And so these numbers are charted around a Star of David, and you have produced within your name, so your full biological name, your physical talents, your physical karma, and your physical goals. And then you also have a spiritual triangle, which is your spiritual talents, your spiritual karma, and your spiritual goals, leading to your soul destiny. So we can kind of break it down and see where you are on your chart, what you're working through. Most people primarily stay in the physical chart until about middle age, and you know what some people will call like a midlife crisis, which is funny. After doing the charts, I was like, this is so true, because people start to switch to frequencies that are more of spirit, doing things that are really intrinsically who they are, not because they need to pay the bills or they're supposed to, or
that's what you do in this reality.
Yeah, more of the physical manifestations. Now this is all speeding up as we're learning and we're rapidly tapping into our more spiritual essence. We're definitely, the younger people are way more on their spiritual charts, I've noticed.
Almost like a remembering. It's like as you get older, we're starting to remember who we are and what we chose when we came here and what we're looking to create. And the younger ones seem to just be coming and remembering already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they actually, maybe that's why it looks a little more traumatic, their actions when they're playing out their karma, because it's a little more in our faces and in their knowing. So they're not taking the same amount of time to move through it as maybe the older generations did. So like anything that's going to look a little
different.
It's a blunt image right in our face. So I facilitate these soul contract readings and offer jewelry pieces with them. But like I said before, I really like to showcase the person's talents, because your talents are what's going to move you through your karma. And I know, just to give you an idea, my personal chart doesn't have a lot of physical vibrations. There's physical communication and spiritual and creative, and mine were all creative and spiritual and communication. So I floundered for a really long time until I realized that unless I'm in direct service using my intuition and my voice to create, then I'm gonna flounder. And that, doing my own chart, was profound. It kind of gave me permission to do with the little voice, you know how you have a little voice in your head, like, I would just love to do this. that's usually your talents and your goals, speaking. But we easily can just brush that away just with, buying into our family stuff or, our community stuff. So I think these charts, what I've found from clients, they're saying, wow, that really gave them a sense of security. And it's different because I can read someone's energy and do the same thing, but when they see that on that piece of paper that no one told them, it's directly in their name, it kind of separates anything, and it's very sacred to them. It separates people from it. Like, you can't deny that that's the sound of your name and that's how it's functioning. But also, maybe, let's say you're a female and you didn't change your name, you didn't marry, which actually happened to me. So I was driving to work one day and they said, it is time, drop your last name. And I, of course, what do you want me to do? Drop my last name? But they said, it's time to step into who you are, which my middle name is Michelle. I'm Angela Michelle. And I knew it was Archangel Michael, and I knew where this was going. But as soon as I did and I started to sign things differently, my life dramatically shifted. I left a job. I started creating the jewelry, doing the contract readings, speaking the light language, like just talking to people, facilitating healings, just allowing my abilities to really shine through. But when I did the chart of that name, that brought a lot of structure to my old name. So
how's it get better than that?
yeah, if you have an inkling to change your name or switch things up,
or wondering why, if you did, what that means.
Go for it.
Yeah, you did one for me because we did my birth name, but then we also did, almost when I started my journey, became an internal energist, and it was kind of took on this whole life form of itself, and from that point on, it was the same with me. When I started acknowledging this other name that really resonated with me, life just started to happen in such a fast way. Manifesting was fast. All these amazing people started. Creation was it was like the creation became unbound with that name.
And you had that energy. You chose the 6-6, which the 6 is all about creative energy, 100% free will, bringing in anything you want. That's powerful.
Yeah, it was, and getting my chart done I really loved too, because it was so much confirmation of what had happened in my life. But one thing I loved too that I haven't seen in a lot of other tools nowadays is when you get this chart and she talks about, the physical or the spiritual and your karma and everything, she gives you like a list of this is what these frequencies and this name, like attributes of it. And this is what it could be in the positive aspect, but this is what the negative aspect looks like. Because there's certain traits that if you don't nurture them or learn certain lessons that can become really overwhelming, like the negative aspect of it. But then what was neat is there was these little tools or exercises you could do if you were in that negative aspect, and you could become aware of it with no point of view and no judgment, and just say, wow, this is where I currently am. Oh, is that what I can transmute that to? Is that what it looks like in the positive aspect of these traits?
Yes.
And here's an exercise I can do. So imagine that, being able to look at a chart of your life and see where you're at, the positive or negative aspects, and then have these little exercises you can do that can help facilitate where you're ready to choose changing that negative aspects to a positive. I mean, imagine the exponential growth just from that alone.
Right, because we have a name, and really I find that it's how attached you are to your name as well, how much you identify with it. So that can shift. But to have a nice starting point of the frequencies you came in with, to find what was working, what's not working, and gives you kind of just a general, okay, this is where my feet are. Where do I want to go from here? Do I want to shift off this board? Do I want to work within just these frequencies? Do I want to go further? But I do provide the positive and the negative aspects of the numbers, I guess the shadows of the frequencies, because even in a talent position, these are latent talents. And I'm telling you, it took a lot of courage to come out and start speaking in light language to people, and that was mine. But seeing it there, I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, this is that thing that's within me. It's there. So having those shadow aspects of that talent kind of showed me where I wasn't stepping into my power. So I include both sides on all of the numbers, just so you have that, because ultimately you know where you are, more than anyone. In your deepest, darkest little corners, you know where you are,
Yes.
And then you can look at all the healing suggestions throughout and see which healing suggestions are. Some of the numbers have some of the same suggestions, so I always suggest, if you have a lot of meditation in yours, perhaps meditation would be phenomenal for you because it's highly aspected around a lot of points.
I love that. And too, like the growth period of that, to just be able to, like I said, have this little guide of where you're at and how you can get there, you know? Because a lot of times you feel so stuck. And what I love too is how you were talking about how it changed you and the aspects of it. Because, you know, there's a lot of people out there right now acknowledging or starting to have an awareness or remembering of these gifts or capacities they have. There's a lot of empaths out there, and if you don't know what that is, that's someone that's really aware of other people's emotions and feelings, like almost as if it was their own. I mean, it could show up in physical pains in your body.
That's how I receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, until I don't allow. So
yeah, because it's a choice. But unless we know that it's a choice, we can't make you have a tool to be able to return to sender or, you know, ask for it in a different way. Because sometimes when we're talking about the pains in the bodies and people aren't using these gifts or capacities, sometimes it's just your body's way of telling you, hey, you know, until it becomes so big, it's like, hey, and then you're like, okay, you know, what is this? And sometimes, since it's something different, we all go to the word pain because that's the word we use. But sometimes if you can even start to acknowledge it as an intensity, you're like, I'm aware of this intensity in my right knee or this intensity in my head. You know, what is this? What would it take to have greater ease with this? Or even ask your body what it's trying to tell you. Sometimes these little just awarenesses come through that start to unlock it. And it is different. I mean, if you've lived your whole life as one thing and that this reality entrained you to, it's like, okay, you grow up, you go to school, you get a job, you know, this is the little ABCs of life, you know. But when you start to go something completely different that, you know, you weren't brought up to do or weren't entrained or programmed to do, and you start to really think from yourself and that space of free will as to what makes you happy, it's so uncomfortable in the beginning.
Way
it's
uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
And partially because it's yours, it's intrinsically yours, and it's unique. And part of it, the journey, is owning that uniqueness, and that there's not going to be a blueprint outside of you for what you're trying to bring forward, because it's never been done in the way that you're going to do it.
There's no
and
guide.
They always tell me that. They're like, if you're looking for it outside of yourself, you're not. You're looking into the past for something that's wanting to be created now. Everything we see is a reflection of a past thought. A great mentor always, you know, imparts that with me. You know, we can get in our heads and look around, but it's all of the newness is within, and everything outside of us is just what has been. Yeah. And so when you're going to create something new, using your gifts and capacities, I would just say expect to not see it anywhere else. That's half the battle.
Yes, all of your creations are going to come through in your point of view. So the greater that you can do to shift your point of view is about how other people receive that, or how weird this is, or how, you know, whatever.
That was a big one for me.
For me too, you know, so I know, you know, me and you can create together in phenomenal ways, and that's not comfortable for some people. And in the beginning it wasn't comfortable for me because, I mean, even your family and your loved ones or coworkers are like, you know, you just kind of get acknowledged as the weird one, you know, this. And then after a while, you know, in the beginning, it's a little bit of a judgment. Like, it hurts a little bit because you are so different. You feel like this odd duck or so left of center. And, you know, in the beginning it was, wow, I am weird, you know, and I took it. And now when someone tells me I'm weird, I'm like, I know, weirdly wonderful. How does it get better than that, you know?
Yeah.
But it took a while to get there, to go through that uncomfortable period. And now that I went through that uncomfortable period to allow that expansion in my consciousness and my awareness, I mean, the gifts and capacities are just unbounded.
Yeah, I was going to say boundless at the same time.
They're boundless. I mean, now there's infinite possibilities for creation. So, and that does come from within. And our points of views, I mean, if you're constantly, because you know, if you know, and you're aware if you have something that is your gift that you're not really sharing, and your body knows. So you, even though she says these little deep, dark places, you're still carrying that around with you. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, it's not as deep and dark as you think it is. That's just what you've made it and created that space to be. So what would it take for you to shine some light in those places or compartments of yourself where you've created this little deep, dark space because you think no one can receive that in this world, even you? So what would it take for you to start to shine the light there, to bring these capacities and these gifts, for you to acknowledge them and create with them beyond anything you thought was possible, regardless of how anyone else receives it, to be the contribution you chose to be and meant to be here on this planet and for humanity? Yeah,
It's
that's what you could create. That's what you're capable of. But it's a choice, and it is. I'm not going to say it's not painful or it's not uncomfortable, because you do go. But that only lasts as long as you choose it, because that uncomfort is just you changing your points of views of what you created as form and structure, of what you can receive. Because no one, I mean, happiness is an inside job. Joy is an inside job.
Yep.
You know, so what can you create without bounds, without borders, without form, without structure, to be the gift that you truly be, and to acknowledge it to you, and like family members and friends, like we were talking about, might not be real comfortable, but how much more growth and people do you have in your lives now that you're sharing your gifts? What's the caliber of the different people?
Yeah, people have shown up, especially family, in ways that I never thought was possible. Supported me in things. I mean, they'll say, my father, I don't understand it, but I love it, and if it makes you happy, you do it. And so that's profound. There was a time when we didn't have that. So it's beautiful when you're doing what you came to do and you're shining your light. It really does give people permission to open up and accept you.
And like I say, you become the invitation for other people to even know that's possible. So we're not all walking around hiding our weirdness, our wonderfulness, our magic, our capacities, our gifts, just because someone might view it as strange or different. I mean, if you look at it really, every single one of us are different. So if you're trying not to be different by hiding that, you're losing, because there's only one of you in the world. There's nothing more unique, So imagine what you can create that only you could create. So like she said, I always say there's no book, there's no rules, just tools. So if you can find people that, they talk about your vibe and tribe, or if you can find people that you can co-create with, or even if you can't, it shouldn't hinder you from creating. But, when you start to create, that vibration attracts certain people, where they're like, even if they were repelled at first, like, she's just too weird or strange for me. I don't know about the Angela and Minette girls, They start to come around where they're like, oh, what's going on over there? They're having
because we're having fun. Because we're always laughing.
There's so much joy over there. I don't know about that,
Yeah.
And we even laugh because sometimes in this reality, joy is not really looked upon or chosen in a lot of groups. I mean, you start busting up laughing, people are like, oh, they must be drunk or on drugs. It's Vegas, so
or they don't care. I've noticed there's the seriousness, and like you said, we're old souls out over here, and I think we've become a little serious with. There are serious things going on in the world, but actually I was hearing this yesterday on my run out in nature. It said, but why would you go into that vibration to find the new creation? Why wouldn't you just rise up and be in your joy? Because it's in those moments of joy when we're really present and we just get all this amazing information. At least I know that's how it works for me.
It does for me.
I mean, I see pieces finished. I see who they're going to go to. Like, just the magical things happen when I'm in those higher vibratory states. So know that there's nothing wrong with you if you're being in the joyful state and those around you think you shouldn't be because of all these things going on in the world. We can shift it that way, right? We're creating the new. We're not trying to stay in the old and create the new. My guides are always saying, just stay focused on what you're doing, the essence of it, the feeling of it. And they were also something I wanted to bring up, and it keeps coming up. Our language is expanding, and what I mean by that is they were showing me like our physical language, so how our body responds to words. So anything you can do to expand how you even see, like, what is form and structure was what was going through my head this morning. What does that mean to me? What does that look like? If I could do anything and be in joy and expand those words, what would they then look like? Because if you're ever feeling stuck, take a step out, a little bit higher perspective, a step out. And do you know what I mean by that?
And some of you that don't, I mean, there's all different ways. You can start to create a picture. You can meditate. You can, even just take it literally, like, okay, I'm stuck. Picture yourself stuck in whatever that is, cement, concrete, tar, whatever. And then start to envision yourself and then look at yourself and see exactly energetically what is that you're creating that's keeping you stuck. But free yourself from that and start to, envision what else is possible, because when you were talking about the earth too, and people not choosing joy because there is so much chaos and things going on, there's only two types of energy. It's your expanded, which is a very contributive state. You know, you can receive all, and you know, like she was saying, so much shows up, so many possibilities. Or you're in judgment and you're contracted, and so think about that with this chaos and things going on. When you go into judgment and you get contracted or fear, does that seem like an energy that's contributing to possibilities, or for ease in that situation, or for different outcomes? But when you expand, you open up and create this higher vibration for possibilities to show up. Like, if you look at all the people that are in that chaos and choosing that lower frequency and vibration, it's very dense. So if you have those, I'm going to call them little joy pockets of little people in there choosing something different or expanding their space, you know, that starts to bring air, bubbling through, or
levity,
yes, to the situation for possibilities to show up and for change to happen. And you know, what would it take for that energy, more people to have these little joy pockets, or be who they are, acknowledging their gifts, to create a more conscious country, a more conscious planet beyond anything we thought was possible, to facilitate, you know, people. We're using the word awakening a lot. I notice that word's coming up a lot, and I think, like we were talking about, like people are waking up and remembering its choice, or what I'm choosing, or what my lessons are, or why I'm here. You know, like even at that age, what does awakening mean to you?
Correct. And what does it mean physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and all the all the ways? What does it mean frequency-wise, dimensionally? I mean, if you want to take it even further, I was seeing it as if the earth even was expanding her own language. You know, the way we're communicating right now, and we're communicating out with the public, but there's also other communications going on. You know, the earth is communicating with all the planets, as are we, and all of that's changing in this new space. And so as much as we can stay expanded, and when we're looking at the contractions, like when I look out into the world, what's light about this? Not what's right, what's light about it? Like, I know plastics are harmful for the ocean. What's light about that? Oh yeah, I know it. Like, I finally know that I can choose differently, that I can choose to use a reusable water bottle, or I can choose to take my bags to the grocery store. But really just in our own, like, personal lives, taking charge of that, and that being enough.
Yeah, and stepping out of judgment, which I love too, because if you just stay focused on that thing, you're not opening up for possibilities, and you're not changing, you're not creating anything new. You're just, saying, I'm aware of this and I have a strong opinion about it. Well, that's not really going to facilitate the change that you're looking for.
What's light about it? What did I learn about this? What did this outer reflection teach me about myself? Oh, I don't want that, or I do.
Yes. And it's a choice. So choose what's light for you, and that's really what it's about. Not what's light for the group. What's light? Light for your family. What's light? When you really start to choose what's truly light for you, regardless of how anyone else receives it, it's pretty phenomenal. Like, the magic just starts to happen so fast. And it like I said, it is that uncomfortable period, because I wasn't raised that way. Like you do for others, at the expense of yourself, and you give till you're empty and always be in service, and then, so that was a really hard paradigm to get out of. I became such a giver that I got to a space where, everyone liked being around me, but, by the time they were done at the end of the day, I was empty and exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm like, you make me feel so good, but it's like, okay, at the end of the day, I made everybody feel good, but I'm empty now.
Yes.
How do I recharge? And I've noticed, since I started choosing what's light for me, in the beginning that was uncomfortable for them, but now, like, my cup floweth over. Like, people can be, like that same family and stuff that comes around can feel great being around me, but I'm not required to do anything other than be myself.
Exactly. You're not trying.
No,
you're not helping.
I'm not trying to make them feel better.
I was actually hearing all of this today as well. Yeah, they're saying the time of helping is done. We're championing for ourselves.
Yes.
And I know for some that may seem selfish still, and that's okay. But how I was receiving that is when we're for ourselves and for all of our gifts and bringing all of ourselves forward, eventually that's going to manifest in our outer reality. Those people who are inspired by it and then start choosing for themselves. So keeping that in mind, for me, makes it a little easier to choose what's light for me. Because sometimes, being so sensitive to others, it's very easy to just say, oh, I'll just do this for you. But the more I take the power back and say, no, this isn't light for me. And that doesn't, what's light for me right now might not be light tomorrow or in the next second, or it may be. So knowing that really the presence is key. What is light for you? There's no structure to what's light for you, and there's no need to know why. It's just follow that energy. Like if it's light for me to buy some beads from somewhere and I have no idea why, and I just do it, then magically the customer shows up who needs those exact stones. The soul is like, I need this for whatever, and I have them. But it's not until I started trusting that what was light for me was actually going to give me the benefits and the fulfilledness that maybe choosing what was right for me was trying to fulfill earlier on.
And that's kind of what we're programmed and trained to do in this reality, is function from right. Like,
Yeah.
choose what's right. How many of you out there have spent your whole life trying to do what's right instead of what's light? And the difference is, right comes from judgment. Because to define what's right, you had to say this was good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. And that's judgment, judgment, judgment. So when you were talking about the old paradigm of helping, even that comes from, okay, I can help you, which means something's wrong and I can fix it.
Correct.
And that is a space of judgment also. But when you start to, want to contribute to someone and you're that space, it's not even helping. It's like we were saying, it's inspiration. You're inspiring
Yes.
someone to say, wow, I didn't even know that was possible. I've had people come to me and say, because of you, I'm able to step into my gifts now and acknowledge this part of me that I've known who I was since a child that I kept hidden from everybody. Even there's a lot of times they even keep it hidden from themselves, but they know it's there, but it's just this little part of them that they don't want to show the world because they don't think anybody can see that or receive that.
Yes.
So imagine that judgment there in that little space, and when we start to let go of that judgment and say, hey, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's just me. And then we don't function from right and helping, we function from what's light, and that lightness is such a high vibration that it shifts everyone around you, every relationship, your business, your everything. You're in such an
people are
expansive way.
just attracted to it because it gives them permission to choose what's light for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're seeing it being done, especially the little ones.
Yeah. That's
It's
important
a
too.
possibility.
Yes. I mean, for even women, that they're such a strong to do what's right. And it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, I'm kind of a person too. I would kind of like to choose what's light for me. So a woman does not entail any other obligations other than, okay, male, female, what do I want to choose? It's not these pre-designed or destined roles that you have to fulfill out of responsibility or obligation. It's choice. And when we start to empower ourselves as that feminine energy as women and just say, I'm going to choose what's light for me, regardless of what anybody else is choosing. That's the space of no judgment and allowance. It really allows you to expand and create magic in your life.
Yeah, I know we worked on that with me. Minette helped me through that, and that was a profound experience. And even to say to the beings, if you want to experience that, you incarnate. That was huge for me because I hear so much and receive so much, to kind of be able to know that I can let them know, like, if you want to go through this, you don't have to vicariously go through it through me. And even soul family and, ancestral family come in a different avenue. I'm not choosing that at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, that was profound.
Yeah, almost like setting business
Like
hours.
hundreds
Look,
of them just left me alone.
And it took a little bit to get them to back up, but after a little bit of work, they were like, okay, I understand.
But they
this.
learned too. And so, as we're learning on this earth plane, in this dimension, also our soul family, and I see it almost like synapses and your dendritic agate, like dendrites moving out. We're connected with others through all of those maybe points of views or those focal points through lifetimes. And so when we choose differently, it opens up that possibility in that communication receptive, like give and take. See it as a little gold line. So my soul family in another dimension was able to see reality for themselves in a different way, like that they could choose differently. And I could feel that. I could feel the wheels turning in there, like, in their shift. And that was profound for me to see it, because we do so much on the earth plane, to really feel it in the ethers and on the other dimensions was really kind of cool.
And it's kind of neat to take charge, because when you first do become awake, if that's your gift, it's really uncomfortable to just have everyone's like, oh, she can hear us. Here's all these, hundreds of messages for all kinds of people in humanity. It's like,
and to be in a city like this, and I did work down on the Strip, and I was hearing a lot, and that was exhausting. So moved out of that and created a sacred space there and worked in that a while until I chose differently.
Yeah, a little more comfortable space, because you will find, like me, I'm completely different avenue now as a life coach and an energy healer, and the things and classes I teach now and the people I work with is completely different than where I was years ago. It's like completely different paradigm shift. If you go from corporate America, like me back then would have kind of laughed at me now, but that's okay. I would have said that's okay. Because it's awesome, and I wouldn't choose anything different, because it is like my life is truly wonderful, weirdly wonderful. I love it. But I take that as such a compliment now, like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Because I never know what's going to expect. I never know what to expect. I never know what's going to happen. So I know when the gift is hearing, and having that connection, because we're all in like this ocean of energy. So it's like we're all connected. So the more fine-tuned you are, the deeper senses you have of that, the more aware you let yourself become of all of these messages and connections and, things that when you say, okay, wait a minute, I'm overwhelmed. I'm the one in this physical vessel, and I'm kind of setting business hours of when I receive, we're off, signs off, like closed for the day. But that gives you that space to create what's light for you, rather than feeling that obligation. Right. That you have to, you have this gift, so you must use it for the betterment of humanity. I'm sorry, here's the rule book.
And their agendas, I guess is the word, that word feels kind of...
Intent.
Yeah, their intent as a species, I guess.
Because they could be excited too, like, oh, here you go, I've been waiting to do this and this and this and this. And that's when you're like, hey, whoa. Let's set some rules of when I can receive. And
what I want to receive, only for the highest vibrational state of my choosing. Mm-hmm. That's what, what I ask for now.
Because with different beings, they're all going to have a different point of view of what's highest vibration.
Exactly.
Because there's some high vibrational beings out there that can,
Yes, and they have very specific frequencies that they work within, and as far as with Earth, of what they would like to see, different notions. Yeah,
so it's good to know what's light for you. And see, even receiving all the time in the beginning was what's right, what you thought was right. Because when you have that gift or capacity,
if you have it,
I have to do what's right, and I have to use it for... But when you start to function from that place of what's light for you and your body and your experience that you're choosing right now on this earth, it completely changes things in a different way and just opens your heart up to be so much more of the contribution. Like, and I know a lot of people use the word in service, but for me, that can be kind of heavy for me sometimes, because I like contribution. Like, how can we contribute to each other? And that form of creation of co-creative contribution for this community and for the planet, for another level of consciousness that we didn't think was possible for us to co-create together, the reality we truly desire, and to be willing to go through those uncomfortable spaces and to be willing to choose something different. So I just really love, the paradigm and the new systems that are being created and the new amazing people that I get to play with and that are creating and stepping into them. So I want to make sure, too, that you have a lot of her information of, how she creates and what she creates. And so if you want to give them your email and how they can get in touch with you, if you want to get a soul chart done, or they want a piece of jewelry, or they want a soul chart with a custom piece of jewelry that can facilitate that, let's make sure they know.
Okay. So my name is Angela Michelle. You can reach me at wakingdreamerdesigns@gmail.com. Right now, I'm in the process of creating the website for some pieces that I create. Like one here I created for Earth Day. It's some stones that go with the earth, and a lot of these are inspired by, I run outside a lot, so the flowers and the landscape and just they're more the earth frequencies, but we can also do specific ones for you or anything you'd like to bring in, anything you're working on. Sometimes I may come up with suggestions that I see, things you can do if you're open to it. But you can contact me for soul contract readings through that email as well, Waking Dreamer Designs. And I'd love to hear from you and see what I can contribute to your life.
I know,
to bring more joy.
Yeah, she contributes some amazing things around. I love my piece, and I do the same thing.
It's pure unconditional love. So funny thing is, Minette is always laughing, and she's so much fun to be around that I was giggling hysterically as I made that piece. And I was just like, how's it getting any better than this? And I just couldn't stop laughing. So I often receive the feelings as if I'm that person when I'm creating it. So it allows me to really, and I don't mind it. That feels light for me when I'm doing it. It's very sacred to me to have that connection to other beings. I let it go when I'm done, and it is what it is. But
So how does it get any
she's
better
beautiful.
than that? Oh, I just love working with her too. And I want to say thank you so much for coming to the show today and coming to play. And thank you so much for tuning in to Internal Energies Presents Conversations on Consciousness with Minette, Internal Energist, and my guest, Angela Michelle. If you'd like to reach me in any way, you can go to Facebook, Minette Internal Energist, or my website's internalenergies.com. And once again, thank you so much for coming to play. I know we're sending you lots of love, and just remember it's a choice. And if you're getting in any uncomfortable places, just find some tools or some friends that can help create with you.